Hello, this is John Harrigan with The Secret to Immortality, and I have a question. If we're born to be immortal, why do we suffer, get sick, and die? Why do so many life forms hunt down, kill, and consume other forms of life? Why does that happen? How can it happen? The answer I suggest is free will and habit. Free will and habit at all levels of life and expressions of life. At some point in history, at some point in the history of time, I suggest a form of life killed another form of life and repeated this act until the force of death became a reflex for almost every form of life, including humans, a seeming unchangeable fact of existence and predetermination. Happiness really comes to all of us as we understand that we have power to create our life, our mindset, if nothing else. We may be in life circumstances that aren't quite changeable fully, but our mindset always is. We can always learn and grow anywhere with any problem. But often we have this kind of ancient idea that I suppose rulers and others use to control us. We have this sort of ancient idea that we are powerless over ourselves, we're powerless over our circumstances. There's nothing we can do but accept our plight. And our plight is living in this world of death, hardship, pain, and suffering. And it's natural that we deny this, and you can live a fairly happy life, I suppose, until you or a loved one have a protracted illness that takes your life, until you or a loved one has an accident, and you have to deal with the aftermath of that, until a child in your family or someone's close to you gets an illness and dies in a long and protracted death. It's clear this is a flawed world and a flawed creation. What the secret to immortality is all about is understanding we have the power to change it. And I love science. I took a lot of science courses in college and did very well. And I still read a lot of science. But we, who we are, have much more science. Much more science within us. We, as who we are, have much more power over the creation than science ever will. Science is looking at specific and particulars, and I think sadly, the nuclear bomb was such an overwhelming phenomenon. We attribute all this power to scientific discovery. I'm a proponent of scientific discovery. It can take out a lot of human opinion and judgment and get closer to the truth. But as we get closer to the truth of who we are, as we discover who we really are with the secret to immortality at immortalnow.com, as we discover who we really are, we understand that we're in control and that we are in fact creating this physical reality. And I suggest that there is no other reality beyond this one. There may be infinite universes that we create every time we turn left, right, go upstairs or down. With the secret to immortality, we leave that creative process alone. Instead of creating more and more worlds to explore, we go within ourselves and discover our soul and discover all the controls to all of creation. So at some point in the history of time, a form of life killed another form of life, probably by accident the first time, but for whatever reason, this continued and it repeated until the force of death became a reflex, a habit for most every form of life, ourselves included. But you can watch viruses do that, and you can watch plants do this, and you can watch bacteria do this. At every level of creation, there is unfortunately, predation. And what we're doing here today, and what we're always teaching at immortalnow.com, is to understand ourselves, to understand this creation, and start to change it by profoundly changing ourselves. And the first profound thing we look at and grab hold of is the idea that we're born to live forever, the idea that death need not happen at all, nor illness, nor accident, that we can grow and become in a much more effective way with compassion, benevolence, and understanding. Compassion, benevolence, and understanding. I think everybody intuitively gets this. I think every child born into a decent family with a good mother and father who experiences love, these children expect that they live in a heavenly place. They aren't thinking that there's death, hardship, killing, injuring other people. Why would they? The secret to immortality is when we kind of wake up and say, yeah, the creation's a bit flawed and we can change it by changing ourselves and by owning the idea or the vision of immortal physical life. And what that does physically to all of creation, I suggest changing the very physics of this universe. Eventually, most of life imagined it had to take life to survive. Eventually, most of life imagined it had to take a life to survive. Well, that's not the best thing to decide. Take a life to survive. In order that I can survive, I must kill you and consume you. What a screwed up place to live. What a sociopathic, personality disordered creation. But I suggest to you, it happened in increments. It happened very slowly, imperceptibly perhaps. Eventually, most of life imagined it had to take a life to survive, instead of living by its own creative force. Instead of killing and consuming other living things that don't want to die, I suggest that you look to living by your own creative force. Start doing that right now and throughout each day. Am I living from my soul, from my love, my compassion, my infinite good? Am I living from the source of me right here in my heart, perhaps? Am I living from the source of myself in all of life? Am I reflecting this goodness in everything I do, say, and think? Well, the answer to that's probably always going to be no. But we get better and better and better at it. We don't ever have to be perfect, just improve. And as more of us are doing this with the very specific commitment to physical immortality in a heaven on earth that we're creating now, as we own that as a creative purpose of our life force, I suggest it starts to happen. Your body starts to change. This isn't about becoming a superhero and forever looking like you're 29. I look a bit younger than my age, I'm told, but I've overcome several certain death medical crises, and some that were chronic that happened for a long time, with the Qigong for lasting life that we teach at immortalnow.com. It is real, it does work. Today it's called health psychology. Our thoughts, our emotions, what we choose to think and how we choose to feel, we choose those feelings, it does affect us. It does change our physical bodies without getting into the research. You can research that on your own. This is the end of part 1. We will continue to part 2 of this video series.